here, and welcome back to my election prediction video. My video series, I guess. Today I'm recording on September the 15th, Thursday at noon. And so last night was the closing period of the first presidential election poll that me and Kelvin are running. And what we found is the responses were split between those before the weekend and after the weekend. So I think we had a little bit of, because Kelvin was in charge of getting the respondents for the most part, though I did post in my in the comment section of my video the link. So I'm curious because maybe because I think he was posting mainly on Facebook, we may have a slight Democrat House effect, but we'll have to wait and see. But I did notice that those responses that happened post weekend, basically from the 12th through the 14th, so 2 days, were heavily in favor of Trump. And we're going to get to that in just a second as to why I think that may be something that happened. So I'm not going to show you the results on screen. I'll put a link to the cross-tabbing so you can reference and check the math and all that. But we are the poll showed that Clinton led Trump with 44.5% to 40%, with Johnson gathering 8.3, Stein 3.6, and others and undecideds making up 2.7% of the electorate. We had a relatively small sample size of 323 responses, and the margin of error is 4 points. I decided that was a reasonable one, considering we were just under what I would normally consider pushing out. But since this is a first poll, I'm just going to go ahead and publish it. And the breakdown, I'm not going to go too into it, but Clinton is barely getting a quarter of the white vote. Johnson's getting 12 points among that group, and Trump is getting 56 points. I would highly suspect that if Johnson and Stein weren't running, Trump would be getting 60% of the white vote at least. And Clinton might be breaking 30. And then, of course, African American vote is heavily slanted towards Clinton. It's 79.3%, Trump gathering 5.1, and same with Johnson actually getting 5.1. Stein gets 8.6, and Hispanics, Trump is trailing Clinton, 70% for Clinton, 22% for Trump, 70.6 and 22.6. Johnson gets 1.3 and Stein gets 4. Among all other demographic groups, that's Asian Americans, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, Native Alaskans, those groups. Trump gets 12%, Clinton gets 60, Johnson gets 12, Stein gets 10. And our expected breakdown, our expected demographic turnout is whites making up 59%, African Americans 12, Hispanics 25, and other groups 4%. So that's how we got to our numbers. You can check those out in the Reddit thread where I published the results of the poll. And now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the news that's been going on recently. So, in New York City, of course, 9/11 happened over the weekend, but a little bit before that, Clinton decided to attack Trump's supporters, and I guess as a way it was an indirect attack on Trump, but why attack a person's supporters, like that's directly attacking your opponent. And she basically said half of them fall into the basket of deplorables. Now, whether or not she's correct, which I highly doubt 20% of Americans are her so-called basket of deplorables. I highly doubt that. But, and it's actually about 25% now, but I really doubt insulting a quarter of the electorate is going to gain you many points. I don't care how bad the people are. And not only that, but it makes her sound, as Trump said, trigger happy. It makes her sound like she's... It really doesn't sound good for her. It just makes her sound like a loose cannon, somebody who really can't be trusted, by just going out and insulting the voters. And of course it was treated as a gaffe, as it should be. It was just a stupid thing to say. And like the media has said, it's basically her 47% comment. Or her binders full of women comment. And then on Sunday, Clinton had a so-called medical episode, which is what's really dragging down her polling numbers post 9/11. Her doctor released a statement saying that it would... First, the campaign said she had overheated, despite it being a very pleasant, mild day in New York City. But also... And sure, it was in the city, whatever. And then her doctor comes out and said, well, I diagnosed her with pneumonia on Friday, and she was a bit dehydrated, and she was dehydrated. And I don't know about you, but when you're battling pneumonia and allow yourself to get that dehydrated to collapse and have to go to a doctor, basically, that does not show the kind of intelligence required to run the nation. And I'm trying not to be too hard on Clinton, but that is quite possibly one of the most idiotic things you can do. She's trying to prove, whatever the reasons, she should not have allowed herself and her handlers, her Secret Service agents, no one should have allowed her to get dehydrated enough to pass out. Now, sure, if she didn't have pneumonia, it'd be even worse, okay? It's easier to get dehydrated when you're sick. I mean, that's just a given. But still, you should know that, and the people around you should know that, and they should, keep you from getting dehydrated. I mean, it really doesn't look good for her. I don't care who you are. I don't care what the doctors say. Something went wrong. Somebody was a complete idiot. And it's just not going to look good on Clinton. It can't. It's not because of what the doctor said. It's not because I'm against her. It's because, common sense says that, drink water. And of course, and I'd be taking the same stance against Trump with this, or Johnson, though I extremely doubt Johnson would have let himself get dehydrated, considering the dude has climbed the tallest mountain on each of the 7 continents, and has done Ironmans, done triathlons, has done 400-mile bike races, stuff like that. I mean, the dude is an athlete, so I doubt he'd be stupid enough to let himself get dehydrated. But yeah, I would be taking the same stance on any candidate who allowed themselves to get dehydrated. And then if they were a candidate I endorsed, I would immediately withdraw the endorsement. Because that's just idiocy, and that's not the type of leadership you that's not the type of person we should be having as president, is somebody who's stupid enough to let themselves get dehydrated. Sorry about the rant. But it is worrying. Now, her poll numbers are dropping because of both of these comments. And we're going to go west to east. Washington is still likely Clinton. Oregon, I'd almost consider it a true toss-up until we get poll numbers from there, but we're still going to lean at Clinton because I haven't seen poll numbers from Oregon just yet. Nevada is definitely going to lean Trump because it was already leaning Trump. It was already starting to lean Trump before both the basket of deplorables and the incident. We're actually going to... No, Utah's still likely just because of the Johnson effect. Arizona is leaning. I think this would be enough to push Colorado over the edge, both of these comments, at least for the time being. And if things were to stay the same. Nebraska, we're given that, still leaning. New Mexico, we're leaning it. Texas is very much likely, though I've seen numbers showing most numbers are within that 5 to 10 range, nothing closer than that really. Missouri, we're moving likely, same with Mississippi. Iowa's definitely leaning. It's actually starting to look like it might be in the likely category. Minnesota turns from likely to lean, in my opinion, because of these incidents. South Carolina goes to safe now. I had started out with all the states that were safe beforehand. But South Carolina, I think, moves into the safe category because of these. Jersey, I've seen a lot of numbers showing it getting a lot closer. We're going to keep it likely until I see a poll showing it even closer. Same with Connecticut and same with Rhode Island. Maine, we're going to give that vote to Trump and these three to Clinton, though those three are leaning. The statewide vote is within the statewide vote is within that 5%. And actually we're moving this to likely because polls are showing it 5 to 10 points for Trump, showing that there's a very good chance the entire state, the statewide vote goes to Trump, even if one district goes to Clinton. New Hampshire has been moving back towards the tide, but I'm still going to lean at Clinton. Pennsylvania, I've seen polls on both sides. So it's a true toss-up, but the trend line is looking good for Trump. Delaware, still likely. Ohio is leaning Trump, though the Bloomberg Politics poll showed Trump up 5, which would put it in the likely category. But I haven't seen enough evidence of that. North Carolina and Georgia, of course, in this scenario, lean Trump. And actually, Georgia is moving back into the likely category. Virginia is definitely leaning Clinton. Florida is leaning Trump. Most poll numbers are showing him ahead. Michigan is a true toss-up, but I'm still going to lean at Clinton. And Wisconsin, I'm giving to Trump because the trend line is very good for him there. And I've seen... right now his poll numbers are stalled, but the recent news is going to push it into his favor. Trying to think. Actually, Jersey, I'm going to lean. It's in that phase where it's likely or lean, one of the two. I've also seen numbers from Illinois and New York within 10, but I'm a little skeptical of those, so we're going to leave them safe for now. But I think this is the state of the race at the moment, based off of polls that have come out this week and the recent news where it's going to push the trend line, because Trump's momentum had stalled last week, but it recovered. His momentum swung even more in his favor due to the fact that Clinton just had an epic fail of a weekend. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching, and see you later.